Battle of Alberta is back, baby. Kevin Bieksa joining us from somewhere in California after doing a bang-up job, by the way, in AllStar Weekend, chirping everyone within sight, and it was highly entertaining. Kevin, welcome back to Tim and Sid. How you doing?
Good, guys. Thank you. And what you forgot to mention is Perosh is going to be in attendance, and so is Stephen Walkham, but they're both bringing popcorn. Yeah. So I think that's the reason they're going. They're looking for some entertainment, much like going to the movies on Saturday night.
Well, they might get a
see
show.
It too.
Yeah, they might get a show. Kevin, just along the lines of what Tim and I are talking about, do you think it's a good idea for them to be there, or does that inflame things, in your opinion?
I mean, I don't think it matters either way. And, you know, it was interesting to watch the dynamic at AllStar Weekend and to see strategically Draisaitl and McDavid on one side of the room, Giordano and Tkachuk on the other side of the room, to watch the interactions, to watch Tkachuk pass the puck to Draisaitl back door and then no celebration and not even a glance. I mean, I can tell you that McDavid was good. McDavid and Tkachuk had several conversations. Giordano is obviously a leader and a good guy, and I have a lot of time for Giordano. But it just seemed to be a little bit of animosity still between, right here's the play, between Tkachuk and Draisaitl. So I really think this is going to be one of those cases where everyone expects something to happen and it's a big letdown. So we'll see what happens, I guess. But I think a lot of people will be watching. I'll be watching.
Yeah, we'll be watching too.
Definitely.
I got a question for you because, listen, Kassian got 2 games. Tkachuk got the A-OK on the hits. I feel old school. My hairline says I'm old school. But I feel like a lot of old school guys felt like what Kassian did was okay. Before I ask you if you thought it was okay, do you think that with the suspension and the lack of suspension for the hit, the NHL was trying to tell players that's not the way you protect yourself anymore?
I don't think it really matters what the NHL is saying, because that was the one thing that you had is, you know, you could grab a guy if you were a strong guy and you were getting taken advantage of, and you could do this. So one of my big threats to guys and chirps to guys, especially if they weren't necessarily tough guys and they were, I'm not saying Tkachuk's a rat, but if guys that were arrested, tell them, listen, I'm going to take a suspension on you. I don't care. I'll pay the money. I'll beat the wheels off you, and I'll accept my fine. So I think we all know Kassian, and I think we know he wants to win the game. But if something like that, you telling me if Tkachuk doesn't hit McDavid like that, again, and beat the wheels off of him, that's what's going to happen.
Do you think if Tkachuk hit...
So it doesn't matter what the NHL is telling you?
No, it doesn't. Yeah. But but it's interesting, Kevin, you bring this up. Like, so if Tkachuk, and Tim and I talked about this a lot, going back to that initial incident, if Tkachuk hits McDavid like that twice, do you still think there's no suspension on Tkachuk?
No, there'll be a suspension for sure on Tkachuk. And my opinion of this is the Raffi Torres hit. This is the hit that our team in 2011 fed off of. And Raffi Torres did a way worse hit than that on Brent Seabrook. And I don't know what the damage was, but I guarantee you there was some sort of concussion protocol. And this hit has been outlawed. I don't mind the hit. I've said that before. I think if Tkachuk wants to play that way and chop the head off the snake, because Kassian's kind of their emotional leader, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with it both sides. Yeah. I'm fine with it if I'm a Calgary fan. I love the hits. I think Tkachuk is gritty. I think he's a skill guy, and he's sending a message with the hits, especially if he's not getting caught. He's not getting penalized. And I love it if I'm an Oilers fan and Kassian gets laid out twice and he grabs the guy and beats the wheels of him and lets him know, you know, you got me, but you're going to get this if you hit somebody else as well. So it's a very interesting situation. I'm certainly not on one side or the other.
Yeah, I felt the same way after it happened. Hey, is it true on the wildly popular Kess and Juice podcast, which you can check at kessandjuice.com or at Kess and Juice on Twitter, that, and by the way, it features Ryan Kessler and some other dude, you told a story with Zack Kassian about fighting him in an elevator. Is that true?
Yeah, so I think it's funny that you lead with that. If you actually listen to the episode from the 45-minute mark to the 50-minute mark, if you're going to listen to anything out of Kess and Juice ever, listen to that 5 minutes and listen to Kassian explain his battles with sobriety, his battles with, with his family, his battles with like the car accident, and how he ruined his chance, or at least he thought he ruined his chance, and he made a decision once he hit rock bottom to get some help, and how he's been sober for so many years. He's got a wife now, a daughter. It's one of the most moving conversations I've had in the last 5 years. So that's what I would take out of the episode. Right. But if you want to take the entertainment value, yeah, two fiery guys, and one night we had a fight in the elevator. He wasn't the only guy that's ever fought a teammate. It was something where afterwards we just laughed it off, and it was actually a pretty entertaining story.
Doesn't seem to be a lot of room in that elevator for a fight with large men such as yourself.
There was Frankie Corrado, who was a rookie at the time, trying to break it up, and he ended up he was the only one that took a punch. He took a punch in the face.
Not
and
Frankie.
And had I know,
such a good kid, too.
Frank's such a good guy, man.
He had a black eye, and then he had to go meet with Mike Gillis, I believe, the next day with his black eye shiner, and they're like, what happened? And Frankie, being the good, loyal kid he is, just said he fell.
Wow,
That's
taking
awesome.
one for the team, Frankie Corrado.
And as the youngest of 4 boys, I understand that a gem cannot be polished without friction. Okay, Kevin?
Good one. That's see, like you started off really slow in this show, and now the bar is being settled.
Wow. Holy cow.
I was just listening.
Yeah, I know.
It's the story of our career.
It's basically been that for my career. Yeah.
But it's funny, like, and I'll pitch this to McAuliffe as well, Kev. For all the people who say I don't need a little violence in my hockey anymore, the buzz around this game tomorrow, like, just stop it with that garbage. Like, people who like aggression in hockey will be watching. People who don't will be watching. Just that notion that I don't need a little violence in my hockey, it's just not true. It's not.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. And just for the record, I'm not driving in a car like I wasn't last time. I'm actually a passenger like I was last time.
Hold off on the tweets there, Twitter. He's not
talking.
driving, for God's sakes. Relax.
Come on, I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. But anyways, I think we certainly don't want the NHL to turn into the 70s and 80s again, where there's line brawls everywhere and there's just a bunch of barbarians running around grabbing each other and beating the snot out of each other. But certainly to have this violence, this controlled violence once in a while, it just shows the passion, I think. It brings the passion to the game. Who likes watching a game now? And there are some, and we can all admit it, where you're watching the game and guys are joking around in between whistles on the opposite teams, and there seems to be no passion. There seems to be no disregard or hate for the other team. Like, nobody likes watching that. I don't. I like watching two teams that want to beat each other. I like watching the Vancouver Canucks against the Chicago Blackhawks back in 2010 to 2014. I like watching the Bruins against the Canadiens. Those are the games I watch.
And it regulates the game, too, but we won't get into that argument because that'll start something completely different that we don't want to do. Kevin Bieksa joining us here on Tim and Sid. I want to talk about your Canucks for a second, or your former team, the Canucks, for a second, because they won their 9th straight at home. And the game with the Blues had kind of a playoff feel last night, the way they grinded out a victory. I thought it was a great example of why depth matters. And when Jim Benning decided he was going to surround his kids with guys like Jay Beagle and JT Miller, there were a lot of folks in the market that wondered if that was the right thing to do. I thought yesterday was a great example of why he went out and got guys like that. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I would, and I think he's tried to do it in the past, and it just hasn't been quite the right guys and the right fit. It's been close, but I don't think he also had the young guns, 3-4 years ago also, that could actually pull the lion's share of the ice time. But he's got some young guys now. He's got JT Miller's an amazing player, and Pettersson, we all know about him, and Besser and Bo. And he's got young guys, Hughes, that can play a lot of big minutes. But then he's also got the support. When those guys are tired or when the game's on the line at the end, you can put out a trusty guy like Jay Beagle, who's won a cup. You can put out Sutter, who's a guy who's been very successful for a long time and plays the right way. So they've quietly assembled. And it's taken some time and it's taken a lot of patience from ownership and from the city, but they've assembled a really nice looking team, and it's not a coincidence that they're doing this well.
The JT Miller acquisition, we brought it up earlier, Kevin. Risky, but it looks like it's changed a lot, specifically the way at times Elias Pettersson kind of skates around. He's maybe sticking his chest out a little bit more with some more protection, both physically and in terms of offense next to him. Yeah,
he definitely plays with a swagger. And I guess when he got, I'm not going to give you my source, but I guess when he got drafted, they went through the interview process, and the psychologist and everybody said that this guy might have a borderline kind of attitude problem, a little bit problem with authority, and they weren't quite sure. And he's proven that wrong time and time over. He's a leader on that team. He's one of the best wingers in the game right now. And from what I talked to the guys in the dressing room, he's been a great leader and example on and off the ice.
Kevin Bieksa here on Tim and Sid. Finally, Kevin, did you have fun during AllStar Weekend? I had fun watching you. Did you enjoy it?
I had fun, but I was also doing some unprecedented things like skating on the ice and trying to grab guys. And funny thing is, a couple of these times, like it wasn't really teed up. So if you watch me, I'm skating around. I have people in my ears, and right here, I grab Patrick Kane by the jersey, and then I grab Tkachuk pretty hard later because I just don't want to be skating around without anyone to talk to, and they can't really quite understand what I'm doing, or that like it's a really awkward situation. So it turned out well. I had a lot of fun. My son was with me. He had a blast. We're just trying to get back into everyday swing of things now because we both picked up a bug, but totally worth it.
Nice.
You didn't want to look clingy, is what you're saying. You thought you looked a little clingy.
Like I'm in the dressing room and I say my hellos and I congratulate guys, but I'm not the all-star. It's not about me. So I like to just kind of say my hellos and get out of the way and give them the spotlight. And then you got some of the Vancouver media who are awesome with me and they're making me take pictures with the players, and it's flattering, but it's about the all-stars. And I think those guys, it was a really good crew this year of a mix of young guys and some perennials. And at the end of the day, you can complain about it, what you want, what you like, what you don't. It's for the kids. And the kids and my kids love it every year.
Well said. Kevin Bieksa of Sportsnet. Great job down there. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Until next time.
Yes. Kevin Bieksa, NHL Insider.